Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. You ever hear that expression, red sky at night, sailor's delight, red sky in morning, sailor's warning? I grew up hearing that, and I also grew up to Lake Erie. This is Lake Erie. It's the fourth largest of the 5 Great Lakes. It's the shallowest lake, so it heats up quickly in the summertime and it freezes quickly in the wintertime. Average depth of the lake is about 62 feet. And when the lake freezes, if you feel confident enough of walking on the ice, you can walk 57 miles that way into Canada. So this is always known as a treacherous lake. The weather is unpredictable on Lake Erie. It can change just like that. Storms pop up, the winds start to blow, and the waves get pretty high. And the Great Lakes have the most shipwrecks per square mile than anywhere in the world. And Lake Erie here has about 2,000 shipwrecks. And some of them have never even been found. And perhaps you've heard of the shipwreck, the Edmund Fitzgerald, made popular by the late singer Gordon Lightfoot, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald that he released in 1976. Great song. So I wanted to talk about an expression I heard driving by the lake. It reminded me of what I heard, and I heard it when I was in the Army. A calm sea never made a skilled sailor. And in the Army, as some of you know, I was in aviation. I was a helicopter pilot. And there are similarities, commonalities with aviation and maritime. We use similar terms like knots to measure our speed. We use nautical miles to measure distance. And both require skill. Whether you're piloting an aircraft or piloting a ship, they both require skill and knowledge and awareness of the weather. A calm sea never made a skilled sailor. And so I got to thinking about life, on how life could be similar to a rough sea. And so many of us have experienced rough times in our life. We've been in those rough waters. We've experienced rough seas before. And go right on down the list of things that you have gone through, things that I've gone through. And isn't it amazing that here we are, still made it through the other side of those rough waters, through those bad storms of life, and we didn't end up in the bottom of the lake. And that's what I wanted to talk about. So some of us have, been through those rough patches. We've been shipwrecked. We've been banged up against the rocks, tossed and turned by the waves and the waters. Perhaps maybe some of you have even been thrown overboard, and fortunate enough that somebody came and rescued you and pulled you out of the water. And so there are things that I remember as I was reflecting on that expression in the Army, other things in the Army that I learned that I can relate to things in life. And I can remember as a helicopter pilot flying along, and we were taught that if you ever encountered any rough turbulence, that if you have the autopilot turned on, turn it off, slow the helicopter down, and you can ride out the winds, and you can't fight the turbulence. So you literally have to just ride it out. And the helicopter is flexible, the blades are flexible to take a lot of forces. And so there were times where we had to do that, or if the weather was bad or the turbulence was bad, we maneuvered to a different altitude where it was clearer air, or you just maneuvered around the weather. And so that's what I learned with that, is that there may be times where you're going through a difficult time, you're going through a turbulent time in your life. Sometimes you can't fight it. You can't fight City Hall, as they say, and you just have to ride it out. And I think it was REO Speedwagon who wrote that song, Riding the Storm Out. Sometimes you just have to ride it out. Patience. We had this expression in the Army, hurry up and wait. Hurry up and wait. And so the Army has you, they want you to report somewhere at a certain time. So you're jumping through hoops, hurrying up to get to a place. You get there, and then whoever's in charge make you wait. And sometimes you're waiting there for hours for something to happen, or waiting for something to open. And then we'll say to each other as we're sitting around, yep, hurry up and wait. And so what I learned out of that is patience. So sometimes when we're going through something, a challenging time, we can learn patience through that. And to be patient as best as you can, and handle the situation as best as you can. What else I learned? Reaching out for help. Difficult times, challenging times, knowing that you can't do it yourself. I can remember when I was taking care of my father, having to get home health care to help me and to relieve me a few times a week, and to get help. So that was an example. Being in the military, I had my Army buddies around, our fellow soldiers, so that through a challenging time, well, I got a goal behind me. You don't have to go through it yourself. So reach out for help. And so that's something I've learned. Or if you are going through something, reach out for help. You don't have to go through it alone, which leads to seeking resources, a book, a YouTube video, online support group, community support group, and finding out that you're not alone. I discovered the book No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover. That was a game changer for me. And for years I was trying to figure out where I was going wrong in life. There was a missing piece of the puzzle that I could not quite figure out what it was. And then discovering that book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, changed my life. And then I found an online support group of other men, and I found that helpful. And realizing that, man, I'm not the only one who's going through this, or experiencing it, or thinking a certain way, or feeling a certain way. And that's quite a nice feeling when you know, gosh, I'm not the only one going through it. Something else, when you're going through a tough time, we have a tendency to get spiritual. As the expression goes, there's no atheists in a foxhole. And I can remember in the military, self-proclaimed atheists going through a challenging time, and guess who they reached out to for help? The Army chaplain for help. So I have found that helpful in the past. My spirituality, it can mean different things for different people. It could be God, it could be something else, meditation, your own intuition. So that's something that I have found helpful in the past, is going back and reaching to spirituality. This is spiritual. The sunshine, the water, nature, a bird that sitting behind me is peaceful and spiritual, where in those times of chaos and removing yourself from that and getting into that quiet place to recharge, rejuvenate during those difficult times. And as I've heard in my previous times in my Christian journey, which is evolving, let go and let God. And so I think that's something that some people may find helpful. Therapy. That's something that I haven't done. I can actually hear somebody saying that, Jim, you need some therapy. Perhaps I do. And I knew guys in the military who were suffering from PTSD, and they sought help from the Veterans Administration and got therapy and to get through those traumatic experiences that they suffered. Thankfully, I haven't suffered from PTSD, but I knew guys that did, and therapy was helpful for them. So I think it's good to reflect on the rough seas that you've been through, the bad storms you've been through, and we've made it. We've made it through the other side. Or some people may be going through a rough time right now. I think about the people that literally suffered from the storms, the hurricane down south in South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida. Can you imagine going through a tough time in your personal life, family, finances, divorce, whatever it may be, and then a storm come along and literally blows your house away? Imagine that and what that person is going through. So perhaps they're learning lessons right now. Maybe they can then have a story to tell once they make it through the other side. So going back through that expression, a calm sea never made a skilled sailor. And I think as we go through those tough times, gleaning those lessons learned, and I think if we learn from them, we too can be skilled sailors in life. And we made it. Here we are, for many of us. And so hopefully you got something from that. Hang in there for whatever storm you're going through, and keep on sailing. In the military, if you had an emergency in the helicopter, they always said, fly the aircraft, fly the aircraft, fly the aircraft. That was paramount, rule number one. Fly that aircraft, get it under control first, then handle the situation. So, fly your aircraft. You're the pilot. You're the pilot of your own aircraft. You're the pilot of your own ship. Keep sailing it. Keep maneuvering. Keep sailing these rough waters of life and get through. And that's the message I share today. And become more and more skilled at being a sailor of life. Thanks for watching. Until I see you on the next one.